Hey, what's up everybody? Hope you're having a good day. Today I have not so much of a tutorial as I do a quick PSA, and it's talking about the future of Maxon and a direction that they're going. And this is talking about the new node system and the new capsule system. And these came out just over a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, but they've been very much behind the scenes and they haven't promoted them a ton. But if you go to your layouts up here, we have a node layout and it opens up this scene node. And if we go to create add nodes, there are a whole bunch of different geometry generators, modifiers, different options that you can drag into here. And it's a different way to create geometry, to modify geometry, and to do everything in a procedural way using a node system. Now, I don't really love this system just because my brain just doesn't work really well with nodes. This is very much the way that the process goes in something like Houdini. But I really love the old object manager. I love seeing a stack of objects. I love seeing my primitives and I love putting deformers and stuff into it. It's just very visually easy for me to see what's going on instead of using the nodes. Well, the cool thing about this new scene nodes and the future of Maxon is that they're going to make it easy for people using the node system, or you can stick with this object manager. If we go to the Maxon website and look up capsules, it says that capsule assets constructed in Cinema 4D's Scene Nodes core offer procedural plugin-like power. Now these capsules can be used directly in the Cinema 4D's classic object manager as primitives, generators, or geometry modifiers. So that's what I want to talk about today. It's a way of getting used to the future of Maxon and Cinema 4D and the direction we're going, but we're going to be doing it in a way that doesn't include using a lot of nodes, which is good for a dummy like me. So let's go back to our startup menu. Now the thing about all these is they're a little bit hidden. Normally you would find your deformers and modifiers, all your generators over here, but they are actually in the asset browser under nodes or under operators. So we have geometry, generators, modifiers, primitives, and selections. And I just want to get you used to using these because this is going to be a big part of the future for Cinema 4D. So it's just going to be good to start playing with them. And also there's a lot of great features in here. So first of all, let's go to our geometry primitives. And there's a lot of great features in here that you can use. One of my favorite is the backdrop. And this is just a really great little rig here. I use this all the time to set up a nice cyc to put in your products. So you can see that by adding one of these, it has kind of like an espresso rig down here with a lot of options. It's basically like a miniature plugin. So that's the backdrop. We also have an FUI graph, which is really, really nice. And I think Chris Schmidt over at Rocket Lasso made this, but there's just a lot of features here. So you can think of this as kind of just little plugins that you can add. We have some other things like a grid, which is great. We have an arrow. We can, this one's a circular arrow. They also have a linear arrow, but you can play with the angle, the start angle. You can play with the tip, the width, all this different stuff. These are just really nice little assets to be aware of in here. All right, so let's go to our modifiers. And these are ways to modify your geometry. So let's add a platonic to our scene here. And let's go ahead and look at some of these modifiers. Right away, let's change this to our list view because then you're going to be able to read the text and see exactly what these are. So some of these are going to be familiar to you, and they're going to be duplicates of some of your deformers here. So for instance, you're all aware of a subdivision surface to smooth things out. You can also do that in here with one of these node operators. If you hit Shift-C, you can type in subdivide. And if you just drag and drop it inside of here, you're going to be able to turn on smooth, and you'll have a very similar operation as you do with the deformer. But it's just using these new node operators. So there's also some in here that you would expect to be in something like a deformer, but it's only in these modifiers. So something like this one, the dual mesh modifier, if we just drag that into our platonic, we're able to create this really nice procedural effect on this platonic. And we can increase the subdivision here. And just with a few clicks, we have this great dual mesh look, which is very popular. And we can, this is all completely procedural too, which is great. So there are some really nice modifiers in here. And another one, of course, is the greeble. We can drag the greeble into our platonic and play around with some of these settings to get some great greeble effects. And you would never know that these were available unless you started playing around with some of these node operators. Another one that's cool is a spline trim. So if we added a spline to here, we can go to this trim spline and drag it into our spline. And similar to trim paths in After Effects, this will be pretty much the exact same thing. You can have a spline growing on. So this is another really handy effect, and you wouldn't know about it unless you started poking around in here. And then we have our geometry selection, and some of these sound familiar to you. So for instance, if we had a cube, and we'll go to our ground shading so we can see what's going on, maybe give it a couple of subdivisions, we'll do 2, 2, 2. If we go to our modifiers, the way that you use these is very simple. You just find one, let's say an extrude. We could drop an extrude into here, and just like that, we've extruded our cube. We can play around with all that, and then we could go and look for a inset maybe, and we could put the inset below the extrude, and if we do that, we'll get a nice inset, and then we could do another extrude below it. We can extrude it again, and basically we're modeling but procedurally by using all these effects. And then you can just look through here and pick something like maybe a polygon bevel. We could drop that in, and let's change the offset to 1, and now we're able to get some beveled looks in here. We can even play with our inset on the bevel. So just by using these, you can create some really nice procedural effects. And the great thing is, it's all very easy to understand visually because I'm used to working this way. I'm used to having an object, and then whatever is nested below it will affect it, and whatever happens below that, it affects it second. It's kind of like a chain of events. It's very easy to see what's going on. It's all laid out perfectly, and my mind just works really well like that. So if you're scared of the new node system, I am too. Don't worry about it. You can still use all of these capsules. Just go to your asset browser under the operators. Just get used to them, play with them, get used to them, because there's going to be a lot more of these in the future. They're going to keep adding to this. And I think as we go with Maxon, slowly this is going to become more and more of the workflow. So it's probably good to start getting used to it now. And there's some great effects in here like that dual mesh and the greeble. They're super fun to play with. So that's a quick look at capsules and nodes. Maybe you weren't even aware of them. It is kind of a behind the scenes thing they're working on. It hasn't been heavily promoted, although they are starting to promote it more and more. So a little glimpse into the future. I hope that you found that interesting and useful. Thanks for checking out the Pixel Lab. We'll talk to you next time. Ciao.